Hello everybody, I'm going to show you how to set up CameraBase and start entering your own data. We see here in this folder we have the downloaded CameraBase file, and we also have a folder with images. So this is a single station with two cameras, and within each folder we have the corresponding images for each camera. First we're going to unzip CameraBase. We get this folder here. Within that we have the Access database, which has all the software and everything to run CameraBase. And up here you have different folders. The first thing, if you've never used CameraBase before, you should do is apply these fixes, and especially the image registry fix and the max log per files fix. It's also possible that you need to copy this COM dialog OCX file into the right location. There's actually two files here. There's for if you run a 32-bit Windows, you use this one here. If you run a 64-bit Windows, you can run this one here. All this you only need to do once on a new machine, and once it's installed, CameraBase should run just fine. So I'm going to open CameraBase in Access. We're going to enable the content, which allows us to run the macros, all the code that CameraBase is based on. And we see here this is an empty CameraBase with the main menu. What we're going to set up first, we're going to set up the path to some key directories. So first of all, we're going to find the image directory. This is where CameraBase stores the images after we've imported them. So we're going to here to C, CameraBase demo, CameraBase 1.7, and we have an image directory here. Select that. The output directory is going to be in the same folder called output, and we have the bin directory with some software that CameraBase, external software CameraBase needs, and that can go in. We can also set up some other parameters here. The time for event. So this is the number of seconds between number of minutes between two independent events. I'm going to set this to 60 for now, and we can define dusk and dawn, which for the tropics we often use 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after, but depending on where you are in the world this could be different. We want to use EXIF. That only applies, we're generally using EXIF for data import, but this is a leftover from the old days when there were still film cameras and we digitized images manually. For videos we have two choices. We can use the VLC player, which is what I would recommend, or we can use the Windows Media Player. So once all these settings are correct, we're going to close this, and now we can really start entering data. First thing, we're going to define a research site. I'm going to give it a name. This time we'll put the reserve. We can enter some descriptions. Next, we're going to define our survey. We select the site. We can have multiple servers per site. We're going to select, and we'll put the 2014. Organization. Some of these are mandatory, some of these are optional. The time zone we actually need to enter here, -5, and here I'm going to give it some rough coordinates, -60, -18, just so that we can calculate sunrise and sunset for those areas. The number of camera days we probably need to enter at the end. I'm going to put some value here, like 200. So you have something, and then I need to put a start date and end date. These dates are going to be used to filter your data. So if you have any images that were not taken between those dates, for most analysis or data output, these will be filtered out. So keep that in mind. This allows you to really select survey time duration that reflects when all the cameras were out, and how you define this is up to you, but it's really important to define these. So this was, I think the data was collected in 2014. So I'll change this here to 14. And high was collected between June 1st and October 31st in 2014. The rest are mostly node fields that can be filled in, but we're not going to do that right now. I close my survey and I set up my camera station. Again, I select the survey. Here I can give coordinates. I don't have the correct coordinates, I'm just going to put in some numbers, but you can give lat long or UTM. I would suggest UTM. We can give there's two group fields which you can use for any characteristic you want. We can have, let's say if the camera is off-road, road or on-road, we can have information on vegetation, whatever you want. Here we enter the code for each camera, SDG1, that was a bush now, trophy cam, SDCG2, and it was the same model. Again, we can add additional comments or descriptions. Okay, once we're done with this, we're ready to import the photos. Here's a button that says enter photos. This is not what we want to use. This enter photos is really an interface that was used in the past when we had film photos where the EXIF data didn't store the date and time. The interface is still very useful for quality control to look at your data and filter by different attributes. We're going to look at that later. What we have over here is this batch import, and this is really the main data import interface. I'm going to click on that and have a survey name again, and we select our station. Next thing, we need to tell camera base where our original images are. So I'm going to go to camera base demo, SDCG1, and we select the folder where the images are directly in. So if you have a subfolder in here from leftover from the SD card, you need to select that subfolder, but generally just you select the folder where the actual images are located, and the same for the second camera. Ready. Next, we click on process. There's different fields here. Tolerance. Tolerance gives you the number of seconds for pairing up images. So if you have two cameras, a camera base automatically pairs up images that are supposed to be the same individual from the left and the right side based on the timestamp. Now often the clocks in these cameras are not exactly synchronized, so we need to tell camera base what the maximum time between difference can be to still consider an image the same way. Here we use about 60 seconds. Often we can use even larger values, especially if your interval between consecutive triggers is set high. We can also adjust the time on camera. So sometimes a camera is off by 2 hours. You might want to actually adjust that, and we have to enter that time in seconds, so you need to calculate what 2 hours is in seconds, and you can enter that here. For videos, there's often a problem that we use the timestamp on the file instead of the timestamp in the metadata. So often we need to adjust that offset. And the interval here is what the maximum time between two consecutive images is, so it's still considered the same species. So if you have 3 images of the same species, we only need to enter that name once, and then it carries over to the next images. I'm going to click on process here real quick, and we're going to see that camera base does start matching up images. We see that the time here on the left is very similar to the right, so I think we can be fairly confident that these images were taken at the same time, and these are actually correct matches. What we see also here is that the AVI photo here, the number 11, was actually moved up and has a different timestamp. That's what I meant. So the problem here is that the timestamp is in local time and there's a change in time. So what we need to do is add 2 hours to this. So we'll do a video offset. 2 hours is 7,200 seconds. And then we can process again. Now we see that the video time is correct. So we see the time here, 15:21, 16 seconds, 15:21, 30 seconds when the video was taken. Again, here we have images that don't have a matching images. These could either be blanks or images where only one of the two cameras took the photos of an animal. And the same here, we have this, but we do have matches here. So again, usually it's good to scroll through here and see if there could be any problem with the time. But if the times are off, on the other hand, you have matches in other parts, I think we can be fairly confident that the matchup is okay. Once we're confident that all the times are correct, and this is really the last time you can correct anything in the timestamps. So make sure you're confident that the matches are correct, or that the time stamps are correct. Once we're sure this all looks good, we can preview. We click on preview and can start classifying the images. Here it's really easy to maximize the screen, and we can actually work in a full screen. We have different fields here. Down here is the species, the main information we want to enter. We can enter sex, the number of individuals, and we can also mark photographs where there's something interesting happening. Let's say a very beautiful photograph, or some interesting behavior, or something that we just kind of quickly want to be able to later filter the images on. We can also determine whether the photograph shows the left or right image. That's especially useful for carnivores where we want to identify individuals later on. So we can always look at the same side from when comparing photos. Autofill time series means that exactly if I enter something for the first image, then it carries that on to the next image, so I don't have to type that again. We can remove a pair, so personally, I don't import all the empty images. If I want to remove those images, then I just click on remove pair, and I don't have to enter those anymore. And they're not going to be imported. I can also duplicate a pair. If we have, for example, if I have two species in an image, I want to duplicate it, or two individuals of a species where we're going to identify individuals, and I can enter different information for those images. Right now there's nothing in the species drop-down. Generally when you set up a project, it might be best to just start entering species names into the species table before even starting to enter data. But we can also do that here. So this is our setup image. I'm not going to use that. I'll click next. I'm not going to use that either. Again, next. I don't use that. And here we have a video on the left side. So camera base doesn't really distinguish between photos and videos. They're all integrated in the same interfaces. You can classify them at the same time. That's very useful, especially for cameras like the Bushnell, where we have a hybrid mode where we can take photographs and videos. So no difference between processing images and videos. We can do that in the same interface. They're all linked together. So here we have our first actual species. The species name, which is scientific name. So we enter that as a new species, and now it's available in the drop-down. Click here. And we see, since this is the same series, the next image has already been tagged. So I don't have to enter any information for that. Here the video, the time difference was a little too long, so I didn't tag the video. Here again we have an empty image. And something else you can do, what I really like to do a lot, is just use my keyboard. So if you use the arrow keys, you can go forward and backward. You can move through images. And with the up key you can actually move in images. So if you have a lot of blanks, that's probably the fastest. You can tell I can go really fast here and go through these images. It doesn't take me any time at all. There's a lot of blanks here. As you can see, we can do several hundred. Here we have a new species. This is Paca. Paca. Again, I close this, and now it's available here. And again, I can use my keyboard and just start typing, and that's often much faster. Again, we have Paca here, and this time the video has been automatically tagged. Here we have a new series, so there was a big gap between these, and again I can just start typing the name, I hit a tab to record it, and then I keep using my arrow key to go through it. And bird. A new one, a jaguar. But once the names are entered, there's very little typing I'm actually going to do. There's very little, yeah, it's mostly just start typing or selecting Brazilian rabbit. So the main thing, that's why I suggest, especially if you have volunteers or techs doing this, enter your species list, and then just have them select from the drop down. Empty. Almost done with this series. Here you see in the unknown bird. It's a dove, but I'm not sure what species it is. And Paca. And that's it. So that's our whole list here. This is obviously just a small subset just to show you. But you can see how fast we can actually move through, especially once the species list is configured. We can do probably up to 1,000, maybe even more images per hour with this interface. I'll close it. And this is still my list here. It doesn't show anything that has been removed, but everything here is classified. If I need to take a break, and I just kind of want to come back to this later, let's say I classified the first 300 and I have 1,000 left, then I could just close this, and the next time I go to batch import, it tells me, look, there's an unprocessed series, and I can just load this. I can go in here and click on any of these and say, okay, let's see what this is. I click on preview, and it shows me what it is. Once I'm happy with my classifications, I click on save, and the images will be imported to the database. See a progress bar down here, and usually takes a few minutes because CameraBase needs to copy every single image and rename it, so we're actually making a full copy of all the images. I'm done here, I can close this. So if I click on enter photos here now, I can go in and see the imported images with all the data we've entered. And we can go through here and look at images. You can also go to report and look at the species report. And here we get the first idea of what we've entered. Number of photos, frequency, and so on. There's other interfaces where you can look. This is the species list, and either you can look at it as a regular form where you can go through and make changes and edit, or you can look at it here as a datasheet view, where again we can go in, add species, or copy and paste this to Excel. So it's really easy to edit your species list, go through, make corrections to your species list. Other options for data management, and it's the last one I want to show, is a batch delete function that can delete multiple things. So I can select the survey, I can select the station, and I can delete a certain time range for that station, or I can delete. Let's say I don't want to have all the unknown rodents in my database. I can just delete all images that are unknown rodents. So if you ever enter data that's incorrect for some reason, you enter data with completely wrong dates, you can just select a station. You can select either a date range or a species. Both these are optional. So if I leave the species blank and just enter a date range, then it's going to be, and we're just deleting every single species within these two dates. Or if I just select the species without a range, I delete all the images from that particular species. When you upgrade CameraBase, it's important that you can export all the data as an XML file. You download the new version and you just go and import the data from that same XML file. So that way you can easily change to a new version of CameraBase and you keep all your data, you move all your data over. That's the easiest way to really upgrade to a new version. The last interface here is camera days. So I want to record what days my cameras were working, so I can have the exact camera days the cameras were active, or I can create masks for occupancy data where I want to say, look, this camera was only active from this date to this date and not the full survey period. Again, I select my survey and my station, and I can select my station here, and I put in a start date and an end date. So I know this station was working from June, let's say June 6, 2014 until September 3rd, 2014. And my second camera here was working from the same start date here, but it actually stopped working on August 5th, 2014. And if I have more cameras, obviously I would select all these cameras and enter this information here. That's it for data entry. There will be a second part of this video where we'll look at some basic reporting and some data analysis.